They called me selfish, then smashed a champagne bottle on me at my own brother's birthday. All because I refused to give up my $450,000. They had no idea what I'd take from them next. Hey, Reddit. Before we dive in, we've noticed the channel's been losing a bit of engagement lately, and subscribing is the best way to stay connected and support us. So hit that subscribe button, and let's keep building this amazing community together. Let's start the story. I'm 29, female, and up until a few months ago, I genuinely believed my family loved me. Not in a fairy tale way, but in the messy, complicated way families are supposed to love each other. Unspoken forgiveness, showing up when it matters, and above all, respecting boundaries. But I was wrong, dead wrong. What they really loved was what I had, not who I was. It started 3 years ago when I bought my condo. I'd worked 2 jobs through college, skipped vacations, and freelance nights to stack a down payment. When I finally closed on that 2-bedroom downtown unit, it felt like a victory. No cosigners. No handouts. Just me, my credit score, and a relentless grind. My family clapped and congratulated me, but I could see it. Behind their smiles, they thought I'd gotten lucky. My younger brother, Jared, 25, still lived at home, floating between hobbies and part-time gigs. My parents babe at him. He was their golden boy while I was the overachiever who always made them feel less than with my ambition. I heard that exact phrase whispered in the kitchen once when they didn't know I was home. 2 months ago, Jared got engaged to a woman named Lexi. I barely knew her, but she was pretty loud and had the kind of entitlement you can smell. Their wedding was fast-tracked, and suddenly my mom was hinting at how great it would be if Jared and Lexi could start fresh in a place like mine. First, I laughed it off, then they stopped being subtle. Maybe you could gift it to them. My dad said casually one night over dinner, as if handing over a $450,000 condo was like lending a book. I'm not giving anyone my condo. I said, looking him straight in the eye. You don't even use the 2nd bedroom. My mom chimed in. Jared and Lexi would turn it into a nursery. I didn't work my ass off for years so someone else could play house in my place. I shot back. That's when the whisper campaign began. At family dinners, I was the selfish one. The cold one. The ungrateful one. They brought up childhood stuff. How my parents sacrificed everything to raise me. How Jared looked up to me and I was letting him down. Then came Jared's birthday party. I didn't even want to go, but Lexi texted me a long message about how family is all we have, and I thought maybe showing up would calm things down. I brought a nice gift, noise-canceling headphones Jared had wanted, and a bottle of vintage champagne. It was hosted at my parents' house. The whole extended family was there. The vibe was weird from the start. People kept giving me these side eyes like I'd walked into a courtroom instead of a birthday party. Lexi was cold, Jared ignored me, and my mom, who usually fussed over me in front of guests, barely acknowledged my presence. Then right after the cake was cut, my dad made a toast. He tapped his glass, cleared his throat and said, "Tonight we celebrate not just Jared's birthday, but his future with Lexi and hopefully a new home." People clapped. My stomach turned and were hoping. He continued, looking directly at me. That someone in this room will find it in their heart to help make that dream possible. My jaw dropped. A few guests turned to look at me. That was when I knew this was a setup. I'm not doing this. I muttered and stood up. Lexi blocked me as I tried to walk toward the front door. Seriously? You're really gonna ruin this for him? She said loud enough for people nearby to hear. You don't need that place. We do. Grow up. I tried to push past her, but she grabbed my arm. Then Jared came up from behind me. You really are a selfish bitch, he said. His voice filled with venom I hadn't heard from him before. I turned and slapped him before I could stop myself. I'm not proud of that moment, but what happened next? Lexi picked up the champagne bottle from the table and smashed it against the edge of a chair. The jagged glass flew, and in a wild swing, she hit me hard on the side of my head. Blood, screaming, collapsed. I don't remember hitting the ground. Just the sound of people yelling and someone finally calling 911. The police came. Lexi was taken in. I was taken to the hospital with a concussion and a deep cut just above my ear that needed 10 stitches. And my parents, they told the officers I had instigated everything, that I was being dramatic. They blamed me for ruining Jared's birthday. Lying in that hospital bed that night, I had one moment of clarity. I didn't know them a damn thing. Not my condo, not my respect, and definitely not my silence. I didn't press charges immediately. I waited. I let them think I'd gone quiet like I always had. But what they didn't know was that the next move was mine, and I wasn't just taking back my dignity. I was about to take something from them they never expected. The stitches came out after 10 days, but the scar stayed. Thin, red, just beneath my hairline. Like a quiet reminder of everything I refused to ignore ever again. But it wasn't the pain that stuck with me. It was the betrayal, and not just from Lexi, not just from Jared. My parents, the people who raised me, who I used to call every Sunday night like clockwork, had defended the girl who nearly fractured my skull because I wouldn't hand over what I earned. They thought I'd disappear into the background like always, that I'd lick my wounds and move on. But this time, I wasn't playing quiet. I was done being the convenient daughter they could weaponize when it suited them. I wasn't just walking away. I was gonna make sure they felt it. First, I got a lawyer, not just any lawyer. Maya, a former classmate of mine who'd gone into civil litigation. She was sharp, tenacious, and more importantly, she'd seen my bruise in person. She didn't treat me like family drama. She treated me like a client who'd been assaulted and gaslit. Within 2 weeks, Lexi was served with a civil lawsuit, assault and battery, emotional distress, and medical damages. We weren't playing for a symbolic slap on the wrist. We were seeking $125,000 in damages. I had medical records, witness statements from 2 distant cousins who saw the hit, and most damning of all, video. Turns out my uncle had been recording the birthday toast. He caught everything. The setup, the humiliation, the slur, the moment Lexi raised the bottle and swung. That alone would have been enough to bury them in court, but I wasn't finished. Jared worked for my dad's real estate company, technically. In truth, he barely showed up 3 days a week and spent most of his time vaping in the office or flirting with interns. The company was called Ridgefield Realty, and it wasn't a big player, but it was my dad's pride. Here's the thing. The condo I bought, it wasn't just a condo. The downtown complex had 10 other units going up for sale, new construction, just entering the market. I had first dibs through a contact. While my family tried to publicly shame me into giving mine away, I used the silence to quietly purchase a second unit, then a third. Maya and I formed an LLC, Red Spire Holdings, and I became the anonymous buyer of 5 out of those 10 units. And with that, I held enough sway on the property board to influence HOA votes and long-term lease approvals. Guess who my dad's firm had just signed a contract with? The developer behind that complex. Ridgefield Realty was betting big on closing sales there. Sales that suddenly got complicated. At the next HOA meeting, Red Spire Holdings vetoed short-term leasing policies, something Ridgefield depended on to pitch to young investors. I also pushed for stricter rental background checks, noise ordinances, and occupancy limits. It all passed. 2 weeks later, Ridgefield lost 2 buyers and got slapped with a bad faith claim by another. My dad stormed into a board meeting demanding answers. He had no idea I was the one behind the curtain. Not yet. It all unraveled when Jared, panicking about money, decided to go on a podcast. One of those trashy real talk shows, and ranted for 30 minutes about how I destroyed his life over a damn apartment. He casually admitted on air that Lexi maybe overreacted and things got violent, but it wasn't a big deal. The clip went viral. Not millions viral, but enough that their neighbors, colleagues, and a few business partners saw it. It was sent to our lawyer. Lexi's legal team tried to settle immediately. NWE countered with $150,000. They caved at $100,000. She tried to deliver it in person, thinking that would somehow clear the air. I refused to even open the door, but I wasn't done yet. The final blow came in the form of a letter. A very public, very pointed letter that I sent to everyone who'd been at that birthday party. I detailed everything, what happened that night, how my family tried to guilt me, the assault, the smear campaign, and what I'd endured. It wasn't angry. It was measured, detailed, factual. I signed off by saying, I'm not the daughter who will be your scapegoat anymore. I'm not your fallback plan, your financial safety net, or your silent witness. You taught me what loyalty looked like, and I've learned to give it only to those who deserve it. That letter made the rounds. My aunt called crying. My grandma said she was ashamed of how my parents handled things. A few cousins I hadn't spoken to in years reached out, apologizing for not stepping in. But my parents, radio silence. Until last week, my dad showed up at my building. He waited in the lobby, asked to speak to me. The concierge called up. I told them to tell him I wasn't available. He left a note, said we all make mistakes. Family doesn't turn its back. I didn't respond because the truth is they turned their backs a long time ago. I just finally had the courage to walk in the other direction. Now, I still live in my condo. Still walk past the scarred part of the wall where Lexi swung at me like a villain in a bad soap opera. But I don't feel fear anymore. I feel power. Not from the money or the units or the legal wins, but from the simple act of standing up and not shrinking. I took back my voice, my dignity, my future, and I never ever gave them that condo.